Good morning, everyone. Thursday, planning board meeting, March 14th already. 2024. Let's do a quick roll call. Rick, let's start with you.
Rick Smith, alternate.
Alan Burko, alternate.
Bill Spence, member.
Nancy Knight,
Good
member.
morning, everyone. Thursday, planning board meeting, March 14th already.
That's fine, hold on.
There you
Why are you interrupting?
I interrupted myself.
go. Isn't technology? You can interrupt.
You don't do anything
Voice from the
different
past.
every day, but sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, Nancy, go ahead. Do that one more
All
time.
right, Nancy Knight, member.
John Racine, member.
Morgan Dean, member. Catherine Brennan, member.
And Rich Reed, select board ex officio.
Rob Wilson, alternate.
Thanks, Rob. Is Margaret?
She told me Wednesday she was planning, Tuesday she was planning to come.
Okay, so she said maybe a little late. All right, and you're gonna leave at 9?
I need to leave at 9 o'clock and per established procedure,
Understood.
I would recommend seat Margaret as soon as she arrives in my
Okay.
place.
Got it. So let's take a look at the minutes here. See if we can't get these out of the way quickly. Anybody have any thoughts? Does it look pretty okay?
I'm not very good with grammar, but if someone could look at line 38 versus line 41, where the comma is, like the abutters. I don't know.
It
if
should
that's-
be a. there should
Yeah,
not
versus then,
An
is it,
apostrophe.
yeah,
there's no apostrophe.
Well, I have some suggestions about that whole line anyway.
I
okay.
already have all of your suggestions. but-
Okay, so you don't need them again.
Okay, thank you.
That saves us a lot of time.
Yep. Any more? Mr. Secretary?
Well, since Alicia already has them, no.
Okay.
You can't vote on them without hearing them or seeing them, though.
They're just grammatical. It's not any content changing at all.
Change word or.
I did it. Yeah, you can-
Didn't, even if they're just grammatical, do we need to hear them, Tara?
Well, you guys have spent a lot of time over the years talking about how the grammar can change the meaning, so I think that's different than a typo.
They're just word choices. It's not.
Yeah,
changing-
that would need to be voted on, so, I mean, if he's gonna send comments in advance, then I think another draft of the minutes would need to go out or something.
Mark?
What if you just wait and then incorporate the changes, put them out and then vote on them next time rather than sitting here for a half an hour?
So then.
I beg your pardon.
No, it's not that, it's,
No.
because if someone sees something as substantial. And it would be easier to do what Tara said, incorporate the changes that you made. And just send out another draft, but vote on them next time when the changes are made. So that you have time to look at them.
Okay.
So what would be easier? So John, so if Bill's gonna send, the grammatical changes to me.
Yeah.
You want me to send them to everybody? No.
No, everyone should just send any changes they have, I think, to you.
Okay,
And if there's anything substantive, they should talk to John and then a consolidated draft of the
Another
minutes should
one.
go
Separate
to
draft.
everybody with all the changes incorporated.
It's what we do with the
Okay.
select board, but we're making the changes the week before. So the copy that goes out with the agenda has already been edited,
Okay,
right?
so then what lands on the table here should have all the changes in
All
it.
the changes in it. And I'm just saying, wait 1 month in this case and get on that schedule. So if you guys get changes to Alicia within a couple of weeks,
change them, send them
And
out
then we'll
again.
change it and send them out again.
Okay.
Okay, what happened was that when the changes were sent, it was well in advance. Had plenty of time to do this.
Yeah.
So
we
then-
just-
Yeah, no,
We,
it's-
we need to just adjust what we do.
Proceed.
Good.
The easiest way to do it. And I just wanna do whatever John wants me to do.
So that's what we're gonna do. Thank you, everyone, for your
All
input.
right, so we'll table this for the time being.
That's
Yeah.
correct. We're gonna table it.
'Cause without knowing yours, I don't wanna double say whatever you say.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Okay. Put them aside.
I'm sure you covered everything.
We'll wait for them.
Let's see the-
Okay. Stay with me, Craig, okay? I think we should go right to voting officers because it's been a year. And I was hoping Margaret would be here too, so she could vote, but that's okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 5, 6. We need one more. We should have 7 voters, correct?
You got 6 right.
And we have 6.
Can you see
You need to seat one of the alternates.
Rob Wilson?
Yeah, so I'm gonna seat Alan Burko. Today
Or,
for Margaret. No, Margaret's
No.
not.
Margaret's in
Just
an
to make
alternate.
so,
Mike Appel.
Mike,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna seat you, Alan, from Mike Appel.
Okay.
So I think before we go any further with anything, we should really vote for the officers if that's okay. So that would be for the chair, secretary, vice chair. Correct? Correct. If anyone wants to nominate somebody, or if somebody does not want to continue to run, that's fine. Speaking for myself, I believe it's another year, so if everyone is okay with that, vote. Let me know, but I'll run the chair one more time.
just as a point of order, the select board after the town meeting had a select board meeting and reappointed members here whose term had expired. I forget how many there were 3,
Bill,
Yeah.
Margaret and myself.
right? Right, two permanent members and
Yeah.
one alternate.
So, yeah, let us know how that,
But it was just
So
a
3 of them are,
reappointed to the, there are no changes in the membership. And by 2-0 vote, the other select board members voted me as the ex officio
okay,
for this year.
yeah,
So,
okay,
it
good.
was 2 to 1, but.
so I'm sorry to interrupt, like.
No, we needed to hear
I will
that,
second
yeah.
your motion
Okay,
to nominate, second the motion to nominate, oh no, I would make the motion.
so you'd have to make it.
I
and
make the
then-
motion that to nominate John to be chair of the planning board for 24-25.
Okay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
For vice chair, Nancy has been the chair. If are you okay with
I'm happy to do it,
run
but if
again?
anyone else would enjoy the position and like to try it out, I'm happy to pass it on.
We like you as vice chair.
No one else wants to take over meetings?
Yay.
Okay, then I'll nominate Nancy as.
You're welcome.
um,
Anybody?
Make that move, yeah.
Okay, I move that the board nominate or reappoint Nancy as vice chair of the planning board.
Seconded.
Morgan second that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And the Mr. Secretary or Mrs. Secretary,
I nominate Bill Spence for secretary of the planning board, 24-25.
Second.
Kathy second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. It's
Thank
done.
you.
Okay, we can press on. And unless there's any other comments. Okay, now we can usually do the privilege of the floor. But I got you coming up in a minute if you wanna just hang in there. Is that okay? Okay. Do we wanna do a little discussion of the town meeting?
Yeah, everything passed.
I'm so proud of all you guys for Tara, you too, Mr. Wilson, all of us. It was unbelievable that they all passed.
Did you have any people come to the table and ask questions?
We did.
I had one, yeah, I had
A
one.
few. They weren't many.
Well, the one comment, and I know we had a discussion about having a complete, the copy of all the ordinances out, and someone did request that, and we didn't have, we
Good.
pulled it up on our phone, we referred to the website, so been just a note and everybody's, maybe next year we at least have just one copy of it printed out. You know, and I think it was helpful. I mean, that not a lot of people had, questions, so we probably don't need as many, flyer, but a couple. You know,
I really thought there'd be more
yeah.
questions.
Maybe a sign saying planning board. I don't know if they thought we were part of all the, the conservation committee, like we were all one table, that I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe advertise a little more
Yeah,
what we were there for, but other than that, I think it went really well.
yeah.
You
Well, it was a lot of hard work. We all did it. Tara, again, thank you for your involvement and all of that. Craig,
Just a observation, for us that don't follow it all the time, but should follow it, I guess, because it does affect some of us more than others. Are you planning on doing any more changes next year? I mean, it seems like you're just constantly tweaking this thing.
What do you mean?
Are you, how many amendments did you have changes this year?
Uh, 9 or 10.
Are you gonna do 9 and 10 next year?
Oh, we
No,
don't have, I mean, part of it is
Well,
when
we
the
need to
state
know
law
that's what we
changes,
get
we
there.
have to adjust.
What?
So part of it is when the state law changes, we have to adjust.
Right, but what I'm getting at is, if I know you do public hearings, and I know you do public input, but it's complicated to follow all the different boards.
yeah,
all the time.
we hear what you're saying. There was a lot of changes and a lot of things going on, like the HOP housing. Tara, could you comment a little bit about that? All the amendments that we had to change this year?
Well, you had the Housing Opportunity Program grant, and that expires in June, so everything under that had to happen at this town meeting.
That-
And you had been working on the solar, wind, and EV charging for a while, and you'd had a couple of the definitions and cleanup stuff hanging out there for a while. I don't think there is a long list, at this point that's geared up for next year. It will be, policy changes, or as Nancy said, anything the state law throws at us.
Okay, Kathy?
I think as people come up and have issues, and we formed these little subcommittees, so we've got like the dark sky group is still working, so that there wasn't an ordinance issue, but there might be next year, because as they evolve, so it's just as people bring issues to, the
Well,
board.
what I'm saying is, if you don't follow, I mean, it's a lot to follow,
Mhm.
you're
A lot,
meeting
yeah.
like all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to follow this stuff, especially when it affects us. And we'd like to either nip it in the bud, or at least put our 2 cents in prior to town meeting.
So do you have a suggestion on how we can do it better?
I'm asking right now, is there anything on the list for next year?
This
At
is
this-
what this
We can't.
meeting is, though, to determine
But
that.
not
Yeah.
the
At this
Yeah.
point,
whole year.
yeah, there could be
No way.
something.
I think we
I
take
mean,
a
it's not, this
couple.
is not driven by property owners, right, these changes?
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes in the law to,
What, on the 9 ordinances you did, what were driven by property owners? Probably a small percentage, if none.
Well, I think part of that, Craig, though, if I can say this, is that we were trying to, it was time, or past time to capture changes in the environment that were helpful to property owners, like solar issues, wind, that sort of thing. That our zoning was silent on it, and people were doing things or anticipating to do things. So we were just trying to get that on the books per state law. So indirectly, I suppose we were working on something that we thought would be very helpful to property owners, but I don't recall anyone coming in asking for a specific zoning amendment to be considered. I don't think we had one of those, and I do think we tabled a couple, I can't remember off the top of my head, it's still early in the morning, I had a chance to think through it, but I think we tabled a couple zoning amendments to look at.
Yeah, the setbacks.
Yeah, we
of course.
did.
The setback
Because
matter
the,
was,
because the
Right.
voting body came here and.
So those will be over the year, those will be on the agenda, and I'm sure something will come up. There's some legislation at state level that could impact our zoning if it gets signed into law.
Yeah, so I guess come to the meetings or read the minutes. It's the best, or watch the video.
If you sign up for the alerts, then every time there's a public hearing, you'll get an alert. in your email.
Yeah, but you guys are meeting all the time, I guess. Like,
We meet once a month.
yeah, you got little subcommittees going and all, like she's talking about, and things like that, I mean.
But they don't report.
Yeah,
go
we
once a month.
come to the meeting and report. We don't have our own minutes or our own.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no minutes for this.
I'm just saying it's hard to, unless you're on top of this all the time.
it's a very active, ongoing situation,
Well,
really.
that's why I was trying to find out what's driving it.
Yeah.
Like this, the wind thing, I mean, I guess now we can put up wind towers. By right,
Well, small wind turbines.
what's the definition of small?
That's in the-
It's
in
in the
the-
ordinance.
Well, why don't we talk
Less
about
than
that a
100
little
feet.
later?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I mean,
Because it
So
can-
we don't need to go into that, but
Yeah,
But the,
Get
the
that,
things
yeah.
like EV
There's state
charging,
law
there
that
was,
showed that.
there was no language at all about EV charging. Now, there is for businesses as well.
Well, and I guess you could say that was driven by you, because you had
Right.
come up and mentioned that.
That's right, that one about commercial EV charging.
So that was
Yeah.
helpful to us, really.
I'd say half of it was driven by the housing grant.
Mhm.
That is, we'd probably have 4 or 5 amendments had it not been for the housing grant
I mean, the
changes.
PUD change.
All of
That
them.
was one of them, yes.
Yes,
Is there a limit on, or are you just gonna vote on every project?
there's no limit. But I don't think there will be anything close to 10 amendments next year.
yeah, there might be a record.
Yeah,
I mean,
plus,
there was an underlying theme last year. If you're correct, that was trying to get at this issue of affordable housing.
Pay people more.
It's not within the purview of the planning board to
and there was a lot of
take
input,
salaries.
with a few people that helped us to make a decision on one of the amendments that we totally got rid of. It just was a pretty hot item.
Yeah.
Which I would like to revisit this year.
And we may,
Yeah.
We may,
except.
yeah.
We may be
All
able to
in
come at
favor,
it
we had a
from a different
small
pressure view.
bullet thing saying these are the 5 things we're gonna work on.
Yeah, we
So if
can't.
one of them was interested, that's gonna affect us more, maybe we would pay attention to that one item.
You know, we'll work on this and talk about it as a group to see if there's something we can do to
Yeah.
help that information go out. Maybe with some alerts or something. The best thing to do is come when we have some of the public hearings.
We cater.
No, I mean,
You can't.
when we set out the agendas, I mean, we do, maybe be a little more detailed on what we're gonna, if something comes up, so then that way, like, it would just be a quick looking at the agenda, oh, is that anything that I'm interested in, kind of a thing?
Yeah.
I don't know, that way you don't have to watch a whole meeting or whatever, but it's, that might, though they're gonna discuss Dark Sky Initiative or whatever it's gonna be, and
And
that
most,
might be a suggestion.
most issues we discuss go on for several meetings too.
So,
That's
That's
what
right.
makes it seem like there's
I'm just
a lot of
saying,
meetings.
normally zoning ordinances are pretty well in stone mostly. And owners buy property based on those, so what's on that zoning bylaws.
I mean, I would argue most people who are gonna buy a home don't look at that.
Yeah.
It's not a thing that real estate agents even put into their presentation.
I'm not, I mean, Darryl said that he did,
Yeah,
so,
and he bought another piece of land and,
yeah, did the
Yeah.
whole thing based on the way the zoning was, so I don't know that you could say that necessarily. I think most people don't.
Right.
Aside from zoning, Craig, I think the board will be probably somewhat busy this year on site applications. I think there may be a couple coming our way.
Yeah.
Generate interest, so that'll probably take up a lot of our time.
Saying it's a
No,
lot
we-
of changes.
We get it, we hear what you're saying, although I have to say this about that, that all the amendments passing had to have something to do with the word getting out.
I
To the
don't think it was,
citizens.
yeah, that, you know, there, you can go both ways with, I mean, everything passed, I mean, so, I mean, I'm not saying, it was hard, I kind of know the zoning bylaws a little bit, and even I had to read them 3 or 4 times.
Oh, yeah,
And one of them, the
Yep.
PUD, I still don't understand 100% how it affects me all that much.
mhm.
I mean, the solar and the wind farm. I think, you know, I understand, we can put up wind farms now.
No, you can put up a windmill.
You can put down the small. Yeah.
Person.
Yeah, not a farm, but
Well, you can sell, you have to sell electricity, so you're allowed to sell electricity now.
yeah. So maybe what we'll do is we'll have a public hearing on open questions about a lot of this stuff.
Technically,
So
you
people
can
understand it a little
subdivide your
bit.
property into, you know, 30 lots and put up 30 windmills.
Yep.
You know, if you look at it,
Mhm.
I'm just saying, it affects a little more than you think.
Well, again.
It's
we'll-
only, John,
ahead.
it's only for on-site use. It's not for the purpose of selling electricity.
It says right on it that you can sell this stuff. So you can. It's a joint-
Well, you have to be able to allow the net metering in accord with New Hampshire law. But that can't be the primary purpose.
That's up to interpretation, I guess, but.
So we'll, like, again, we'll have,
Okay.
maybe we'll have a public meeting hearing for just these kind of questions, so people that, like yourself, that want to come in and talk about it, we can get into more detail about it. Because right now, we're just kind
Yeah,
of,
I'm just saying, I'm talking about if you're coming forward with more changes.
well, why don't we have a public meeting and we can talk about that? Because right now, the board itself is just discussing the town meeting. So we're getting a little bit too much into what you are looking for. So it's really just for the board right now to, when we hear what you're saying loud and clear. So we'll add a public meeting for people to discuss these kind of open questions.
I don't have any questions, I just.
No, but I'm gonna do it so that if we have it and you don't show up, I'll call you up and say, what's going on here? So that's all, because people, you're right, people really need to kind of get a handle on this and hear kind of some of this stuff. But pop in some of the questions, so we can have a meeting just for that particular thing. And like I say, right now, this is just within the board to discuss the town meeting and how it went. And the amendments passing and all that, so any other questions that we had within the board itself?
I guess I said, I think, you know, it was great that everything passed. I did see, I was a ballot counter. I did see that people voted no on number 11, which interested me because really is no net change in the rule, it was just a cleanup, basically.
It was
It
that
still has
cheap
people-
noises.
Yeah,
So someone approached me and asked me about that, and I don't think it may be our fault that we didn't make it clear enough.
We had a public meeting and nobody showed up, or public hearing. So that's part of it. Like, this is where I struggle with it. Like, absolutely, people need to be informed, but it is also on the voting population to inform themselves because we can't knock on every door, we don't have the bandwidth to send something every time we're gonna have a meeting in the mail. So there is a balance to be struck. I don't think we know what it is yet.
Yeah,
We did
Yeah.
start doing wigwag articles.
Well, what
Which
I'm
is
getting,
helpful.
really, like, when you just throwing this stuff as every month coming on with a different article, I mean, it's just. If you
No.
said at the beginning of the year, these are the 5 things that we're gonna zero in on in this year, and this is what we think we're gonna zero in on, that's what I would look at. And then I would pick out of the 5 things, maybe 2 would affect me, and then I would kind of pay attention to those 2 things.
Mhm.
That's what I'm getting at. I can't just spend my whole night watching reruns of planning board. And then we got selectmen problems too. I mean, they're out there putting rules and regulations out there too. So now we gotta follow that.
Yeah.
Eventually, I would assume the conservation's gonna get together and start putting out rules and regulations too. And it's just gonna be a full-time job. I mean,
Well, the meeting minutes are only a few pages long, and if you sign up for the alerts, you'll get them as soon as they're out.
I get what you're saying, but even those few minutes, some of us don't have those few minutes.
So that's a pro and con list for you to decide what you want to put your effort into, I guess.
All I'm asking is if you have an agenda that you think you're gonna follow this year, I'd like to see it before. laying it out.
This is our first meeting since.
Right,
town
that's
meeting,
why
so
I'm
we
bringing
haven't-
it up at the first
We
meeting.
haven't generated a set of.
Yeah. That's right. At this point, we don't have this agenda.
As I said, I think we've tabled
The
a couple
whole year, the rest of the year, I'm not paying attention, right?
No.
That's on you.
So listen, if no one else has any more discussion about the meeting, I mean, the town meeting, can we move forward?
Yes.
So the old business would be, Craig, would he continue the February 8th site plan application for pond site deck remodel, Boulder Path, submissions and public hearing, if accepted as complete. So
Are you opening the meeting?
I'm opening the meeting for you, you're on.
I would like to withdraw without prejudice on this application. I did talk to one of the abutters and we came, I guess, to an agreement on it. So I'm gonna withdraw without prejudice at this point on that hearing,
Okay,
after talking with the abutter.
okay,
Thank you.
All right?
Are you able to share what you and the abutters spoke about?
Yes. The project that I was proposing was just, at best, trying to satisfy our customers a little bit. And all I said to him, is this a real big deal to you? Because it's not the biggest deal for me, you know, and he said yes. And he was adamant about it, and he was polite about it. And it's just a big deal to him, and it really wasn't a big deal to me. So I just said, I'm gonna withdraw at this point. Things might change, but at that point, I'm gonna withdraw, because it's just not worth me pissing one more person. Right? So that said, that's really the only thing about it.
No, thank you for that.
And I told him I would be back with another project that I'm more concerned about.
okay. Sounds good.
So if you vote on that, I would like, that's all.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Tara, anything?
There's no action you need if the application's withdrawn, it's just withdrawn, period.
Well, the only thing is that I don't know what the state of New Hampshire is, but if you withdraw, I would like to withdraw without prejudice, meaning that if I just choose to come back with the same project within a 2-year period, I could. That's all I'm saying.
Yep, so in New Hampshire, the planning board can deny something without prejudice, but there isn't a category like that for withdrawing. You could come back, Craig, in a month, you can come back in 3 years, there are no limits on that.
So if I got denied, I can come back every meeting?
No, denied is different than withdrawn.
By withdrawing, you can come back anytime you want.
Yes,
I think that's the point.
Yep,
you're not being denied, you're just withdrawing and that's your prerogative, you can come back anytime.
Thank you. That's what I got.
okay. Okay, so we're all good with that one?
Mhm.
Okay. Procedures, I just want to touch base on this real quick. We had an issue with an email that was sent out to everybody. And it was almost like people were trying to vote online about an article with the town meeting.
Mm.
I don't know if anyone.
The Wigwag article?
Wigwag.
Yeah.
So there was Morgan had written up one and someone else had written up another one.
Patty.
One was gonna go into the Wigwag, maybe there was room for another one. The point I'm trying to make is that went to an email to all of us. You cannot vote on an email.
Okay.
I don't care what you think. You're gonna either call the chair and ask what's going on or what's not going on, but you can't vote. Someone said, I vote for this one to go on the Wigwag. You can't do that. Everything's gotta go through the chair first. Hang on just 1 minute. there's another issue too, where some information came to Alicia the day before this meeting. You can't do that either. You gotta go through the chair. If you wanna go through Tara, that's okay, but this is the chair runs the meeting. You gotta get the okay from the chair. Alicia's got enough going on. We don't wanna overload her.
It's more, I just wanna also make sure that before anything goes out to the board, that the chair knows that it's going out to the board. So.
Yes,
Well, the chair approved the agenda, full stop.
that's
So
correct.
if anyone else wants to put something on the agenda, you have to get the chair's approval. to put it on the
Right.
agenda.
So if you want to add something to it, call the chair first, we can see if we can do that, but the article thing really bothered me because you can't. You gotta look at those rules and procedures again for the planning board, you just can't. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so I responded with an opinion about it because I was one of the people that responded and I do not remember my exact language. Is it semantics as far as, because I didn't really think there was like a vote or it was just,
More of a
it
discussion.
was more of a discussion or
You
an
can't
opinion.
discuss anything
Of just-
outside this room.
You shouldn't, it's,
It was just an
John,
excellent.
John, if I could help,
Yeah, go ahead, Tara.
you can't discuss planning board business by email. Period. It's not about a vote or decision, it's discussing planning board business. You could discuss what time to move a meeting to, that kind of thing, but not substantive planning board issues, because that's not following the public meeting right to know law.
Okay.
John, can I clarify or add to something? You
Yes, please, go ahead.
certainly, to be on the agenda, it needs to go through the chair, but if someone asks me if they can send something to the planning board, my answer is anybody can send something to the planning board and it goes to the town office, goes to staff, and should be reported under planning board correspondence. And planning board members aren't excluded from that. So if a planning board member sees an article or has an issue or wants to share some information, they can send it to Alyssa, just like Craig could, and it would be reported under planning board correspondence.
Well, then I guess that's what needs to be communicated to me.
I-
I would like this sent to the planning board as correspondence.
Yeah.
That's.
Okay. So like if we found an article, we'd send it to Alicia and say, I would like this sent to the planning board as correspondence, and then everybody can receive it. Nobody should reply, especially reply all.
But I think Tara is also saying that as residents, we also have the ability to correspond with the planning board, not just in an informational sense.
Right.
Like writing.
And on the staff's part, anything that goes out to the planning board should be going out BCC, so that you can't reply to all and by mistake and have a conversation.
Good point, yep.
Back to the wigwag thing, unless anybody has something to say more about this. You good? About this?
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna talk about the wigwag article. So I was tasked by the planning board to write it. And I had Mark review it so that I wasn't doing the wrong things about the amendments, making sure that the substance of it was there. And then I sent it to Mike Fergal. He replied to me that said, I have an article by Patty. Do you need to do both? And I had discussed that with Mark, and I replied to Mike saying, I've met my duty. I have written this as the editor. It's up to you whether or not you publish it. And then they weren't happy with that, so they emailed again, and then it went out to everybody, which actually I don't think every planning board member was on the email that Mike sent, but that's how that came about.
Yeah, I think that was a combination of some sort of hiccup in the town email system. I think John was having trouble seeing those emails.
Yeah.
And that
Yes.
partially accounted for the back and forth and.
Yeah,
You know,
Steve had to straighten my computer out. There was something that I wasn't getting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but yeah, if someone from outside the planning board sends everything to the planning board, you should just make sure the chair's on it and then just.
Yeah, cause I
Right.
come in and I'm like, what do you mean? What? And I Go ahead, Kathy.
So then just going forward, so we're clear then, because I would think that the wigwag is gonna be a vehicle for us to utilize, I mean, because it's, a lot of people read it. Mike and all the editors there are very clear then, now. As well, not to send, if they have questions, it goes to the chair. You know what I'm saying? So that it's not. Has that discussion happened, I guess, is my,
Yeah, everything should come to the chair.
because do they know that?
In my
Because we're
email-
gonna be, I would think we will utilize them a
Yeah.
lot, so,
Yeah.
they need to be clear that, if they have a question about something that's written.
Yeah, well, everything should go to the chair and then blind copy to the rest of the board if you don't want it to go to everybody.
Okay. And they know that,
Live, so they can reply.
that conversation has happened with the editors.
No, wait.
No, it
No.
has not.
Okay, so could we as a board, then can we send a letter or just say, hey, FYI, please, any questions you have, go, so that it's clear that it needs to go through the board. Like any questions you may have going forward about any article we submit, please address to the chair or however we want to do it. So that we're not involved in it. I mean, and I feel awful. I'm so sorry because we've had this conversation now 2 or 3 times in this year I've been here.
Yeah.
I just didn't even,
Yeah,
Well, what made us?
because I didn't think we were saying an opinion about this. We were just
Yeah,
trying
to clarify, but
Yeah.
again, it would be helpful, so that way the editors also aren't saying, gosh, I sent out an email, nobody responded to me. I didn't get, and they don't understand why we didn't respond.
Mm.
So then it's just, everyone's on the same page. So do I make a motion for that we as a board, we can say, I don't want it to be
Yeah.
disrespectful either. I want it to be very polite because we
Right.
appreciate. And this is an amazing vehicle for us, but just,
yeah. Tara, when I am tasked by the planning board to write an article and I write it, and then I submit it, do I need to send it to the chair first, or is that ex parte communication?
The planning board at your meeting should decide how that's gonna work. The board can delegate writing it to you. The board could say you should write it and run it by the chair. That's a decision the board should make at the time.
Okay,
yeah, we might have overlooked
I
that.
think any communication to any outside party, including the wigwag, should just have included in it, any questions about this, please contact the chair.
Yeah.
And that should solve it,
cover it, okay.
I think.
Yeah, and I did have a discussion
Okay.
with the editor about this. We all understood it afterwards, so.
Okay, so they
But
are.
the thing I didn't like was that we all agreed that Morgan would write
Mhm.
this up, and now only a few weeks before the meeting, I hear that someone else's article is going in the wigwag and
Mhm.
not the one we all agreed on that Morgan would write.
Mhm.
So it was
Oh,
very confusing for me as a chair to come in here and say, what's going on? I'm the last to know. Why?
right.
That should not happen. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Yeah. So
But it was Patty that took it on herself to do that as
it
moderator.
was, but I did have a discussion with them and straighten it
For
out.
sure.
So,
And I said, the problem was when she sent it, she had John on there, but the system wasn't working properly for John, for him to see it.
yeah, I didn't see any of those. It was like,
So that's what exacerbated all of this.
we're clear now, but just when we agreed as a group, the board, to have some one person writing up an article, that's what it is. No one else is gonna respond until she gives us some kind of feedback on what she's writing up.
And we're putting that disclaimer at the top. If you have any questions,
Yeah.
don't send it out to everybody. Okay.
don't ask me. ask
And you can
Joe.
send it to the chair and then put a blind copy to everyone else so they cannot respond.
Okay. I think the blind CC is very important.
Yeah. That would work. Mara, any other thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, good.
Okay,
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I think what's important in all this discussion is that as members of the board, we kind of have to discuss amongst ourselves outside of this room what we might do about one issue or another.
right,
We cannot do any business aside from these meetings where we are together and it's exposed to the public.
right. Right, even if you're approached by somebody and say, hey, what do you gotta say, I can't discuss it, it's inappropriate. They might not hear you the first time, because it's happened to me many times,
Yeah.
but I just let them know it's inappropriate, we can't do this.
A question too. So even if, well, no, yeah, so someone comes up and in that case, they can't discuss it. They have ideas, things they want. It's always, the answer is bring it in front of the planning board.
Yeah.
Bring it in front of the planning board.
Yeah, you
Or,
can send an
or if you're not
email.
able, yeah, send an email if you're not able to be here in
You
person.
can't
Bring
not
it in
discuss
front of,
something
If
with
someone has
somebody
an idea.
that's in front of the board.
oh, but if it's
Right.
not in front of the board, then
If
it's
it's not in front of the
an
board,
idea.
Right, if it's a discussion that's going on, an ongoing
It's-
discussion.
someone
or-
wants to know how they do something, or I'm thinking of this, what do you think?
Then you
Bring
can,
it, they'll bring it to the board. But you can't discuss what's in front of the board.
Okay.
That's the big thing. What
Yeah.
you're talking about is much more
broad, yeah.
broad, theoretical,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
except,
fine.
what the, well,
Okay,
I said-
okay, yeah.
we need to move along.
We all good with this? Move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Rob, you good for the moment? Okay. Next thing is, we talked about this last time to bring it forward, reviewing zoning C1 and VC. And Alan kind of had brought this to our attention. So I'm gonna let Alan speak a little bit about this and clear up what do you,
Did everybody get the email? Yes? No.
What email?
It was never sent out. Okay.
So after, I mean, I'm happy to send it, I'm happy to, that's the thing, I just, I can send it now, it was the end of the day, so at that point we talked to
it's fine.
John and that's where.
I just wanted to know where everybody was.
Yeah,
so just before, I'm sorry, just before, if there's an email going out the day before a meeting, I'm gonna tell her not to publish it. Or not to send it out.
I mean, I could
It's-
obviously, so again, I'll do whatever the board wants.
Right, but listen, this is what I think we should do is, because when I send out the agenda, I get it to her a week before the meeting. Or several days before the meeting, so that she has time to work on other things and get the agenda out. So we need to give Alicia time, and this is what I would want to do as a chair, to not give her information the day before a meeting, give her 4, 5, even 6 days before a meeting to put out something, and then she has time to talk with Mark. Mark can call me, which we did, we discussed this kind of thing. And now I'm gonna leave it to you, so you can bring forward what you wanted to send in an email.
And I will send it out to
Yeah,
everyone if you.
And it can be an ongoing discussion, not just this meeting, it's a very important issue, so we can continue
I'm
them.
happy to send it now, if people that have their computers won't look at it.
Whatever you want.
That's fine.
What I wanted to do was open a discussion when we started this last month to see how we can use zoning to maximize tax revenue to the town. So I did a little bit of research and most of it's in the email. The first few questions we have to ask, and I think, I have my own answers is, but do we want to do this? Can we do this? And should we do this? Which is essentially, I'm looking at the village commercial area and actually right across the street where the White Mountains Athletic Center, with their big parcels of land. Can we adjust the zoning to maximize income for the town is my bottom line. The research, if, as it were, that I did shows that residential properties contribute a huge amount of revenue compared to commercial properties. I'm not saying to eliminate commercial properties, but I'm saying, how can we fine tune this to maximize, again, income to the town? The numbers, Mark will confirm these, but 96% of tax revenue comes from residential properties. So, and that number's been increasing. Why? In my opinion, there's obviously been more residential building than commercial building. But the other side of that is commercial properties depreciate dramatically more than residential properties. So even if you built another town square somewhere, you're gonna get a big boost in income, but every year it's gonna become less and less and less. Whereas if you have residential properties, it'll be at least constant or more and more and more.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to, you know, basically put that on the table when Alicia sends you the email. I brought out 4 or 5 properties, which more or less confirm what I'm telling you. I don't know that we have to go through that right now. I'm gonna also just the 3 largest, and I'm guessing that taxpayers are commercial properties. So I think it's the athletic center, town square, and I forget what I had for the third one. But to me, that was just a guess.
But no, that's correct, the largest 4, I think. is-
Largest 4.
The largest,
I have a list of the highest
Yeah.
taxpayers. I'll get that out to you.
So I mean, it's not like they don't contribute, it's just, I don't think they contribute their share because of depreciation. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. But what I'm saying is, what could we do as a planning board to make sure we maximize the income of any further development? Here's the example I used. Town Square was built in 1988. It's valued at $2.2 million today because it's 80% depreciated. So it's really a $10 or $12 million building. Whereas the Golden Eagle, which was built at the same time, has only had a 15% depreciation versus 80.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
so, you know, to jump to the end, you know, if Tyrell wants to build a hotel, I don't know that, I don't want to stop it. I want to bring more people in. I just don't want, I want to make sure we maximize whatever income we can from that. And Tyrell owns 3 big properties. We all know where they are. And the athletic center owns the big piece of land next to them. So that's really what we're talking about. My bias is not to have, you know, like the conceptual plan we saw, which was retail parallel to a tramway, you know, that's going through town. The town doesn't need more retail, in my opinion, but that's something, I just want to put it out there. I want us to discuss it and go from there. You know, we may decide it's not to do anything, which is fine. Just one piece of, is the resort one of the major taxpayers? Do you remember? Yeah, okay, so that's the one I tried to remember.
The ski resort is the #1 taxpayer in town.
Okay, thank you. I learned something when I was looking at this. I thought when they did the express, maybe that's taxable, but for New Hampshire state law, it's not. But the tramway, if they put one in, and I think a gondola as well, is taxable.
What's an express?
The Tecumseh Express, the chair, that's on the mountain.
Oh,
The
I thought
bigger,
because
bigger
it-
chairlift.
oh, it has a name? I didn't know.
It has a name. So that's not taxable, and that's by New Hampshire law.
There are 2 things with the ski resort that are unique. None of the land is taxable.
What?
Because it is a special use permit. And we get a payment in lieu of taxes for the National Forest land. So none of the land is taxable. The other thing is the ski, at a ski resort, any ski resort in New Hampshire, only certain things are taxable. The towers are taxable. The lines, the actual line for the ski lift is not taxable. So when they tore down towers and they replaced them with new towers, there was an offset. There was no change in their value, the valuation of the property.
Hmm.
Because it was just a replacement ski lift. So even though they spent millions of dollars putting in the new lift, we didn't see any additional tax revenue.
But it didn't reset the depreciation?
No,
Why wouldn't it? That doesn't make any sense.
it isn't a depreciation thing,
Oh, okay,
here in New Hampshire. It's not like a building.
okay.
It
Even though
did not change the value because it
have a
did
life.
not changed the ski area. It's still the same ski area with a lift.
Okay.
So now, the addition of Green Peak did slightly increase their value when they put that in because there were new towers that were installed to go up that slope. So, but overall, the valuation, total valuation of the resort itself is not changing, has not changed that much. It has not changed the way residential properties valuations have changed.
Mark, they took the towers that they have over on Green Peak are basically from the other chairlift that used to be on.
And that's why it was a very small change in the value. But the ski area valuation is a very specialized thing. And it is controlled, like Alan said, with state law limiting some of what we can tax. And then we have the additional problem of the land not being included.
Interesting.
Why I'm here to learn.
Yeah, yeah.
Same.
Well,
This is like all new information.
Yeah.
I'm reading your email now.
Well, in the total valuation of commercial properties versus residential. In 1980, Steve has done some analysis of the total valuations. Back in the early 80s, we were 80% residential, 20% commercial, roughly. That's because all the commercial development occurred before some of the condos and most of the single family homes went in. Now we're at 96% residential, 4% commercial, because we haven't added commercial value.
You'll
Right,
have that.
all we have added since the 80s has been residential. The Golden Eagle is not a commercial property. It is 126 residential properties. So the value of the Golden Eagle, if you look at that versus the town square condos, that has increased dramatically because it's been done as a residential property, not as a commercial property.
Hmm.
So, but the commercial center of town was developed before most of the residential development.
Mhm.
So that's why that percentage has, over the years, flip-flopped.
There's a spreadsheet in the email you got that just said, it shows you what Mark just said.
So the Golden Eagle and just ask this question, maybe it's a little bit rhetorical, but Golden Eagle and Black Bear are considered residential,
Yes,
despite the fact that it's effectively a commercial operation.
No, it's both,
It's both.
but the
Well-
ownership is residential, not
Right.
commercial.
so each of those units can be sold individually.
I understand that, but the majority of those units are utilized as a commercial. And
That has nothing, it's the ownership
Doesn't matter.
that determines it.
Owner renting. Right?
Yeah.
Owner is renting.
do we get, or the state gets revenue from the use of those as a
Yes,
rental?
those are the rooms.
And we can't add a tax to them.
No, we have no tax, town has.
We have no taxing authority unless the state gives it to us.
This is way ahead, but if there's a parking structure built, can we add a security fee to that? Can we add
I
anything?
don't know anything about parking structures yet.
Just curious.
Lots to
Obviously,
learn.
I've had a lot of time on my hands.
No, but this is an important
So that's the
to
point.
talk about.
you know.
And I don't wanna end it here. I wanna continue to, as meetings go on, talk about it a little
Well,
bit.
that's what I think. It's just let everybody go home and, cogitate on this.
Yeah, and then we can look at your email and talk about that next time as well.
Okay.
Yeah, what alternatives do we have, though? We can't change the accounting structure of, commercial property. That is, they're gonna be written down as time passes. You know, we can't change that.
Yeah, the depreciation, you would have to tear the structure down and rebuild it for us to reset.
Yeah.
Depreciation, that's
That-
gonna be, there's always gonna be a piece of that that's part of one's property. But if they make major renovations or whatever, completely gut a building, I mean, we'd have to talk to the assessor as far as. And I think having, Stephen Hamilton, our assessing agent, come in and talk to you about how those values are set would be good for you to know.
That'd be really good.
Yeah.
But so one of my questions, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The initial question was, how can we maximize our revenue?
I'm not ready for this discussion. I haven't even seen the email.
Yeah,
Okay,
So
That's
why
what we-
don't we,
I just need to ask
look at
Mark
the
one
email?
question.
Yeah.
The Sun Star is a hotel,
Snowstorm?
The Snow
No,
Star,
sorry.
Snow Star, whatever.
It
It's only
is.
depreciated 15%.
it's. I don't know why, again, I would have to defer to the assessing.
Okay.
There was extensive work done on the building, so maybe he has taken that into consideration.
Kathy had a question.
Yeah, just, I remember last year, we had a community member come up and talk about the C1 and I guess that area and development, and talked about how if you, in the development plan, if there's a way to, we would have to, I guess, change the ordinance to ensure that the upper levels are like condos or something like that, that it was kind of, it would help with the taxes, but then it would also, you know, be a little bit of a lower price point. So I don't know if that's something to consider, that if you're gonna be, that you've got your retail space below with residential above, like how that affects that whole conversation.
Perfect, that's a good point. In Town Square, it's divided into 16 different tax parcels. And one of them is the building sorted toward the post office side, has 8 condos plus retail underneath it. 8, and I think they're 3-bedroom condos. The total parcel is only valued at $180,000.
Wow.
Whoa.
It's all in your email. So this is what,
Okay.
again, this is what we should all go home and think about. It'd be great if we can bring in this assessor person, in my opinion. It would be time well spent,
They'll be here this year.
and then we can go from there.
We have a statistical revamp this year.
Okay.
John, can I add something before I have to hop off?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Before I'm concerned the board is heading down a path to discuss how to achieve a goal that might be contrary to the goals you adopted in your master plan. And I'd encourage the board maybe to, as you shape out this year's work plan in a way that, you know, that Craig was suggesting you might at the beginning of the year, and I think Wendy used to, take a look at the goals, take a look at the action plan in the master plan, and use that as your guide. That might be something, you know, to do at the next meeting, to just kind of have everybody look at the goals and action plan and decide what on the action plan you want to tackle this year. Set up whatever work groups you need to.
Sure, that sounds good.
And I apologize, I have to go house sit for a friend whose husband had a terrible skiing accident.
Oh, boy. Okay, thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Well, Rich has to head out too.
In a few minutes, but I
Okay.
think I do want to be here for a few minutes. I think there's some correspondence you want to deal with.
Well, that's,
Maybe part of.
Yep.
That, but I have to leave shortly.
yep, so why don't we do this? Why don't we continue this discussion with the C1, and C? Let's look at Alan's email and we can talk about that more, so we'll all have a better understanding. But for the goals and action plans, that can be part of all of this too. Okay, Alan?
Yeah,
All
no
right,
problem.
thank you for bringing this all up forward.
We appreciate the research.
Yeah,
It was fun, actually. You know.
that's good. We had no idea, really, I
how
didn't.
much time do you have on your hands now?
Now we're gonna cover you.
My text.
I just dumped it here.
Yeah.
Correspondence,
So we had some correspondence about Boulder Path, the road design. One email from Jenny and one from Harris.
Yep. So, I see Jenny Lucasen here today, and Jenny, we got your, email. And I get it, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind coming up and saying a few words for everyone.
Yeah, Jenny Lucas, Lost Pass Road. I basically copied you on an email that I sent to the select board. I've been a vocal critic of the new road and sidewalk design for a while, along with a couple of other people, and our concerns haven't been addressed at all. My main concern is that pedestrians and vehicles sharing literally the same surface with no buffer whatsoever, half of the year is unsafe. And when I have brought these concerns to the select board, no one addresses the issue of safety. They address the issue of, oh, we need to be consistent. Oh, it's easier to keep the snow off. And, you know, they go down a whole bunch of other, but no one ever says, hey, is it actually safer if we do put a buffer up year round? Or that never comes up into the conversation. So the reason why we put those reflective posts up is because we need safety. Like, it's not safe without them. So 6 months of the year, we have a configuration that we're asking people to walk potentially with their backs to traffic, which is unsafe. And I'm just not satisfied with the response I've been getting from town officials and from the select board with regard to the issue of safety. I understand it's easier to plow. I understand it's consistent. I understand it's cheaper to install. Tecumseh Road is way better now than it ever was, because now there at least is a space for people to walk, and there never was. So Tecumseh Road is a win. But my thing with Boulder Path is it's already configured, most of it along the 8th green, in a beautiful, safe way. And I am just asking the select board and town officials to consider keeping that arrangement when they redo the road. And no one will listen, no one will do it. And I don't understand why it's such a big deal to be consistent when we're sacrificing pedestrian safety. I just don't get it. And this isn't just me with an opinion. You can go home and Google safe sidewalk. Google it all day long, and you will always find you need a buffer, you need a curb, you need a buffer, you need unanimous across all of the different agencies. It's unbelievable. And then if that's not enough for you, just do a little anecdotal thing. You can't do it now because there's snow on Boulder Path, but drive down, say Tecumseh Road, swerve over the line, nothing happens. You swerve over the line and you swerve back. Drive down Boulder Path Road, swerve off the road, and you hit the bump in the mud, and you go, and you notice it. So it will jolt you back to safety if you have a moment of distraction when you're driving. It's not pretty, but it's safe.
Mhm.
And I just think this issue is too important to let go, so I'm trying to amplify it to a bigger audience. I wrote a letter in the Wig-Wag, which kind of explains my backstory about why I'm so passionate about this. And I don't know,
Mhm.
I just don't think, I'm not ready to drop it, so I don't know if anyone else, I know Alan feels the same way I do, but I don't know if anyone else does.
No, thank you, Jenny. No, this is something we're going to discuss and talk about a little bit right now. Rich, I know you gotta go, so I know
I do,
you're on the select board and you may have some questions.
Well, just 2 or 3 very brief comments. I'm sorry, I have to leave for an appointment down in Concord. The select board, I generally agree with your conclusion that we've not satisfied you, obviously, but the select board has discussed this numerous times. I make it a point as a chair to discuss any correspondence we get and come to some sort of decision about that particular piece of correspondence. I would say that we do consider safety as part of it, but obviously not to the extent that you want us to discuss it or even consider it. I guess you don't think we considered it enough. We town meeting with regard to Boulder Path Road, town meeting 2023, the select board was given the authority to spend some of the monies that were authorized at that time to engineer Boulder Path Road, which I think everybody agrees needs to be fixed in some way, rebuilt or repaved or whatever. I mean, there are various options. And so this year, with that authorization and those monies, we've asked our town engineer, road engineers, to provide us with detailed engineering in a manner that's consistent with what we had done for Valley, Tecumseh, and Snowsbrook, absolutely. So I would say that that is where things lie at the moment. And I would also say that this is a select board issue, not a planning board issue. And obviously, Jenny, you should, given your passion, speak to anybody and everybody in all venues. But the proper discussion for this is at the select board.
But say we all agreed unanimously with her and we wanted to change it. We could change the setback restrictions, like this is where I don't
No, there's
understand.
no setback really involved. There's a
Well,
right
like
of
there's a
way.
minimum between the road and the thing, and
Well,
towns can
there's-
make it more, or they have to maintain the minimum of, like, I just read 18 inches from the curb to the
Mhm.
line. But towns can make that more. Is that where you're going with this? Like the planning board could do something like that? Was that your thought?
No, my only thought was just to amplify this issue to another group of, actively involved residents in town.
Hmm.
That was really it, because I'm, as you can tell, like I said, and think
Mhm.
my tone is going down the tubes. Cause I'm getting frustrated, so.
There is a planning board committee that is dealing with this issue. So it's the town core committee and they're meeting this Friday to discuss it,
And a select board has a representative on that.
right?
on
Who's
that.
running it?
Well, yeah, it is a select board committee. That's where these road
Well,
issues
it
generally
was a
are.
planning board committee, she just
At
happened.
one time, yeah.
So is that something the public can go to, or like the public
No.
can be invited to be
I
part of the
don't, well,
working
actually, I
group?
don't know. I have no idea.
Like, I know a member of the public can be part of the working group, like we had.
They are.
Oh, yeah, they are.
They are
Okay.
invited.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's in this room tomorrow at 8:30 if you wanna come.
I don't, that's my question.
The engineer,
I don't know.
I'm gonna be here.
I guess I don't know. No one ever wanted to come before. It just never came up.
well, it's a town committee, so it has to be open.
Yeah.
I mean, people have. to-
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Rich, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Wasn't this part of the pedestrian study many years ago that we spent over $800,000?
Yes, that's an important point to
So,
say as well. that
My
it was
question
still
is, was
More or
that,
less following, not,
my
Direct.
question is, was that the sidewalk design in this pedestrian study? And was the way we're doing it now part of that pedestrian study?
for the most part, but not completely. They had different designs for different roads. With regard to Boulder Path Road, they had one multi-use, they recommended one multi-use path of 10-foot width with a 3-foot landscape buffer. But the one multi-use path on one side, all on the same level, not a curved sidewalk.
Yeah.
That was the recommendation by that pedestrian study.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I have to leave, and I would like to recommend that the chair seats Margaret Turner as the ex officio. So
I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Margaret, that being said, I'm gonna seat you.
Okay.
Come on up. Or you can, wherever you like to sit, Margaret, is fine.
Sit over here, wait.
So Jenny, well, thank you. What we wanted to do is at least get this out to as many people as we can for you. I'm the one who agreed to get you here on correspondence. And I wanted, it's not just this room that you're talking to right now, it's the camera that's going out to everybody else as well. So you're reaching another larger audience on this.
I wrote a letter in support of Jenny that I'd like your permission to have Alicia send to the board. It's got all the transportation links you can go to that'll confirm exactly what she's saying. And this is going backwards in terms of safety. I don't have no question in my mind anyhow. Whoops.
Yeah, that'd be fine, but, and again, I don't know if the planning board has any jurisdiction with this, but I'd like to at least let the audience, we're still residents, we're not just planning board people, can hear this and it's a little piece of history that you're seeing might be wiped away again, right? Because it's a beautiful setting as that whole road with the trees there.
Yeah, and that's the sort of the secondary piece is that, okay, yes, we've made the road configuration safe 6 months of the year when we put up all the reflective posts, that's great. But that's gonna be down, and I know they won't be as close together. They've said they can be further apart, all the reflective posts on Boulder Path, because it's straight. But, you know, the most scenic street in town now is gonna be lined with reflective posts. It just, and the current configuration is perfect. Like, I don't know why you're there. Anyway, I appreciate you.
Okay. Sure.
Giving my correspondence.
Kathy, did you have a question?
Oh, I would love,
course.
just supporting of, the email.
Okay. Yeah, if you could send that out, we can look at it, but not as a board, I'm not, as residents, we can.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just send it with the emails that I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to just forward it.
Sure.
Yeah, I've never saw her email.
Yeah.
I never received it.
Thank you.
Ellen, do you remember when she sent it?
I just sent it now to you.
Perfect.
I got my hand slapped once, I learned.
All right, Jenny.
Thank you
That's
very much.
okay. And I'm sure this will be being discussed
Okay,
as the future goes on.
thank you.
Any more correspondence on this? On anything?
That one email, the other
So
one.
Donna,
Oh, I'm sorry, we gotta read. Donna,
Donna Harrison.
Okay.
Submitted on Tuesday, March 12th. What does this comment regard? Public safety. Please include any questions or comments. I completely agree with Jenny Lucas's opinion of the multi-use lanes and plans to redo Boulder Path Road. I have seen cars drive the multi-use lane if the delineators are not in throughout the valley. I am very aware of traffic passing and feel as though I am right in the road. I am comfortable walking along Boulder Path Road along the course with the stroller with the buffer that exists now. Donna Harrison.
Kathy, go ahead.
We take like that email to our meeting tomorrow. We're both on the town court, and share that with the, the group when we meet it,
I'm not able to come to that meeting, but yes.
Okay,
I
so I'll
think
be
that would
there,
a good
What,
idea.
yeah, so Kathy, why don't you take both of these, once from Jenny,
Okay.
then you can,
Bring that
These are
to,
these are submissions that came through the website,
Yeah.
okay,
so.
okay.
thank you
Yeah,
for
I mean-
bringing those.
I'd want to see statistically, like the number of people who get hit because they're walking in the street in winter that's narrow because the sidewalk isn't plowed versus the number of people that get hit because they're walking on a plowed area on the side of the street because the street's really much wider. And I suspect that you are actually safer in winter, but
You'll see that number, you won't see that exact number. But it says that if you have a space between sidewalk and the road, your rate of, I think it's fatal accidents decreases like 90%.
so you're not on the sidewalk. That's what I'm saying. Like, in
Not-
previous winters, like when they can't plow the sidewalk, which is a lot of the time, you're walking in the street and the street's a lot narrower.
Well, then the problem
That's
is
the
that
argument.
plowing the sidewalk, which we just bought a new machine for.
Well, I think the idea is. to
The
get
idea is to
rid of
plow
it.
the sidewalk so you can walk on the sidewalk year
Yeah.
round.
So to play devil's advocate, one of my favorite things about Waterville Valley is that you can walk down the street, in the middle of the street sometimes and not see any car. And we have multiple streets that people walk on that don't have any sidewalks.
Right.
So I imagine, I mean, I haven't heard of any fatalities in Waterville Valley. I haven't even heard of a car strike in Waterville Valley.
Right.
But that's like, we're waiting for it to happen, right? But playing devil's advocate, it's not an issue right now. My kid
No.
walks to school every single day and doesn't use the crosswalk because she can walk across the road, right? And the cop's right there.
Margaret?
Yeah, I just have to throw this in because there was a indication that the place along Boulder Path is safe. even when it's plowed, it is not safe. It is a sidewalk that after it is plowed accumulates water, the ice freezes. I will not walk on there when that condition is like there. And it's not a problem that they haven't plowed. It's that the sidewalk is not such that in the winter, you can really navigate it safely with, you know, various accumulations that happen along there.
Mhm.
I
And it's-
walk that every day. And I don't find it be a problem, particularly if they put the salt down as they do sometimes. I know we're trying to reduce that, so
Yeah, that's the thing
maybe that's the
too.
difference as well.
Yeah.
I think the issue in that we had a sidewalk plow that was old and a piece of junk and that it wouldn't, you know, adequately do the job that would solve the problem of our sidewalks when we plow it correctly. So we bought a piece of equipment that doesn't necessarily fit on the other sidewalks that we still have in place. I'd feel better about what we have today with the new configuration if we actually kept people at the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Ding, ding, ding.
Right,
have-
right.
Well, they're
We have a
doing everything
problem,
they
and
can.
I understand we're a resort community, wouldn't want to chase anybody away. But there's absolutely too many people that drive, both residents and our visitors, that drive at an unsafe speed. And if you want to just verify that, go stand by the little speedometer thing by the athletic center and watch how many people are doing 45, 50 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Who don't even slow down on the, when
They
they're
slow
coming
to
into town.
35, you know,
Yeah.
it's not a.
I'm not sure how many of you remember the things that they've tried over the years to slow people down. There were like chicanes that were at Triple I Road, and then there were more,
There were bumps, they put some.
they put some
in
bumps
for a
in, they've got the
while.
pedestrian
Everybody
sign, but that can't be up
contested
in the winter.
them. Yeah,
The fire truck had a difficult time getting through the chicanes, and then people realized that we had spread them apart enough so that if you had just the right angle, you could just fly through it without touching anything. So there have been multiple iterations of this over the years, but I don't think we've settled on what's best yet.
Yeah.
I'll give you the outside limit. There was one person with whom I had a conversation about the speed of vehicles on Valley Road. And he said, I drive by that thing to see how far I can push that number up. Oh, shit. People do this.
yeah.
And-
And
Crazy.
one other comment I have, in those areas in the valley that have curbs, I don't walk there.
Same.
Because those sidewalks bring me closer to the cars than being in the new area. Where I've got 8 feet and I can be way over from where the cars are passing by.
Mhm.
And that's why I like the new configuration better.
Mhm.
I also don't like curbs because I'm an older person. And while my hips have been fixed, there are a lot of people around here with arthritis, and stepping up and stepping down, even one little step is not a fun thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
True.
totally agree with
And
that.
you also, to add to that, you can't walk side by side on them. When I walk with my husband, I walk in the
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
address that as well. I had this conversation with, what's her name? No, the director of,
Megan.
Megan. Okay, so to Megan, what are we gonna do about this? And the answer is, we're either going to widen the sidewalk or we're going to move the guardrails back. The latter being the most appropriate action, to widen the sidewalk so that people can walk side by side. And that so that the new machine that was purchased to clear the sidewalk will fit. I think that's going to happen. And that we don't have to salt it to death. Because the reason that there's so much salt on those sidewalks is because the machines cannot clear it correctly.
Well, it's partially because there's heaves and dips and.
That's on Boulder Path.
It's so much more efficient to not have that.
Well, on
move
any of the
And not have the person go that extra lap because they would have just done it when they did the street. And to not use salt because you're plowing properly and,
Yeah.
you
all
know,
of
I
the-
just think it's a waste to have the sidewalk when we
So
have
from an
another
expense
solution.
perspective, I gotta believe that the maintenance of these little. Cones or whatever you call them, barrier things. Half of them are falling off into the street or into the, you know, into the sidewalk because the adhesive wasn't sticking to the road on a brand new road at the time. putting those things down and dealing with it, they get broken because people run into them or they fall over and get blown off into the woods or whatever else. There's gonna be an expense fairly close to what it costs to get one of these little sidewalk plows that would actually do the job that we needed to do. Or, as Bill said,
We should get Megan in to.
Yeah,
talk
we,
about that,
yeah, 'cause
Cause I think it's.
she was
more
pretty
of an
convinced
experiment.
that it would work.
Like, yeah, so Megan would have a better handle on that, and I hear what you're saying, for sure, it's. What's safer, this wider part of the road, or like we always had it, where we all walked in the middle of the road? I don't know, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
question that we all gotta ask.
And the other question that I had would, excuse me for the interruption, Mr. Chairman.
Not a problem, Mr. Secretary.
The other problem is that if you, with this additional machine, that is, there are many large municipalities that have these devices, they're like little tanks. That are able to clear, so you push the snow off the sidewalk, then where does it go? Because now that if you push it toward the road, then the truck plows, then you've got more snow accumulating in the between the sidewalk and the road. And what most large municipalities do is that they have a big snow blower that picks it up and puts it in a dump truck and carries it away. Talk about expense, whoa, that's out of sight. So something has to be done, like we need a plan as to if we're clearing the snow off the sidewalk, where's that snow going to go? We gotta get rid of it somehow so that both both the walkway and the roadway are clear.
It's gonna go the same place as if you use a plow on the multi-purpose way.
It goes off the road into the
side,
trees,
Into the
the
trees.
bush, yeah.
Or into the 8th fairway, or into lots of places. We don't
Yes.
have to truck it out here.
I understand that, but I'm merely telling you that these are the kinds of conversations that come up when.
But you go to any western town, they clear their snow. It
I don't know,
can't be-
I remember stumbling around Steamboat and it was a mess
Well,
walking
that
on their
was 8 o'clock
sidewalks.
At night, and you were drinking.
I don't drink, so no. No, I mean, it was icy and because people had walked on it when it was soft, there were like deep footprints in ice. and
Yeah.
It was almost impossible to walk. I was really disturbed by it.
Anyway, we have a problem, and I think that, a lot more discussion is going to occur, but we're gonna do something about it.
Can I just add, Morgan, do you have any concept of how much we would save in paving costs by not doing this 8-foot width of multi-purpose lane?
I have no idea.
Okay,
We'll know that after they complete the engineering studies.
okay.
I'm gonna go with one more, and then we're gonna move on.
Just from an aesthetic perspective, absolutely hate those dividers. I think it makes us look like downtown Boston in some places.
Yep.
So to Jenny's point, like, and maybe I'm being a little bit selfish because I live on Boulder Path, I like walking down that sidewalk. But I do walk the entire, town loop, and I just think it looks lousy. I believe that's a planning board, potentially a planning board.
Those reflectors, that's why we should get Megan in here to explain a little more, but I went to a select board meeting. And she talked about those posts, I think are gonna be eliminated, and there's some little reflectors that countersink into the road itself. And they're mostly for at night, so the lights will reflect off of them. And they countersink them down below, so when the snow plow goes over, it won't rip them out of the
And they'll
road.
still be there, and it's a year.
But it's a
long,
pretty
too.
cool little device, but that's why we should have, again, I say Megan to
Yeah, no,
explain
that'd be
that,
good.
but that will eliminate those posts.
Yeah, and they last, they're there 12 months of the year.
Yeah,
So that the reflectors, the reflectors are very useful in designating the space between the roadway and the walkway.
yeah,
At least it's helpful.
she has some samples if you wanna look at them, but we're gonna move on, correspondence. I think, Alicia, you and I talked about, maybe setting up some time for a lawyer. Remember, we all had some questions about a lawyer.
and stuff, yeah.
Right, so the
And-
lawyer just needs some dates.
Can we
on
do
when-
it? Look, why don't we do it at a regular planning board meetings? Can we?
Is that what you guys wanted to do?
Well, that's what I'm
I
asking.
feel like the meeting last, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you talked about it, you wanted to have it be just a separate meeting with them. Cause that, you can just then talk with them.
Yeah,
So
That might
I
be
mean,
a-
it's up to you guys, he's,
It might be
You
a
come to
better,
a meeting, or you can set up a separate meeting. So it's really, what does the board want to do?
I think the separate meeting might be better because we could spend over an hour talking to the lawyer.
So
but we
it's
wanted-
fine with either.
Yeah. So it's up to us whether we come up with a thought today or just think about it and bring it up next time to discuss this.
Yeah, I thought the lawyer was coming back to us with a couple of dates and then we were.
He just needs, give him some dates and he'll see what.
Okay.
that's kind of-
So I think we
So,
should just do it
First, do we
that
want
way.
to do a private meeting with him with no other planning board business, or do we want to bring it up in a planning board meeting?
I don't fully remember what we're going to talk to him about.
I think the stuff you guys were talking about earlier, like,
Ex parte.
what you can say in emails, what you can say talking, when people ask you questions, what do you say?
Yeah, it's
And when,
more
and where, and whatever, so
procedures and, right.
procedures, what should you do, what can you do?
Because there were some gray areas, if I remember right, we'll have to go over. it, but-
Site plan applications, if someone's asking you about them, things like that, that's
Yeah.
what you guys.
Yeah, how bad is it, you know? So-
Yeah, okay.
So I think we
So
should have a
separate.
little discussion with them, however long it lasts, and we may have some ideas that pop up to our heads before that time, but
So I think we should have a separate meeting with the lawyer that is not exposed to the public.
so one,
It's kind of, is there days that work for you guys, evenings, days, mornings, really just give them some options and then like, I'll follow back with.
yeah,
what-
Can you follow the next meeting? So at least you only have to be.
Or we just go non-public and.
Well, we never know when the meeting's gonna end.
You know,
So we go non-public and then
Go non-public at the beginning.
in the,
Yeah, it's not even non-public, it's not, you're talking about the attorney.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
Not a
not even a meeting.
Yeah.
So,
it's informational,
It's really just. talking.
so if you do that, if you wanna do it in conjunction with a regular meeting, then start your regular meeting like at 9 o'clock. Then you can just have the non-meeting prior to that. And then have a time when the public needs to be here for your regular meeting.
I
So that,
kind of like that.
so that would be April 11th.
If he can do that,
We can-
though.
All right,
do that.
so then if he can do April 11th, we'll start the planning board meeting at 9 on April 11th and see if he can be here at 8.
Is an hour enough?
Well, what we can do is we can give him an hour, and if we have more questions, then we'll work on another meeting.
The other thing you could do, and it might be easier for him, is estimated time that you're gonna be finished, or pick a time that is certain that you will be done, like
Yeah.
10 or 11, and tell him to come then. So you end your regular meeting and then have a talk with him.
Yeah, yeah, we could do
Then
it
it
that way
gives me
too.
a little bit more open-ended at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's easier for him to come up from Laconia
That makes sense, more
rather than
sense.
do it for 8 o'clock.
Yeah. We just, we usually never know what's gonna happen from 8 to 12 anyway, so.
But I mean, if
Thursday.
you say 10 o'clock, you
Something
should
10 to
be
10.
okay.
Yeah.
Then you just end the meeting.
Yeah, and you end
Okay.
the meeting and
Yeah,
adjourn it at another time if you need.
and you wanna try that on April 11th,
11th at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock?
All right, I'll check with him and get back to you.
Okay,
Thank you, Lucia.
okay. And that's it for correspondence? Okay. Committee reports, town core group,
Meeting tomorrow.
Meeting tomorrow, but we met on February 13th. And Mark, since you're back, but we did discuss the TAP grant that the Board of Selectmen opted not to accept the grant because while the engineering, or while the project was approved, the engineering piece wasn't. And they would only pay for the multi-use piece of the path. I guess they needed a 14-foot right of way to be able to apply it to Boulder Path. Is that okay? And then we just talked about the summer, the contract with Piper, maybe in April, depending on weather, hopefully they'll be
Piper
fin-
is doing their cost estimates now for the roads that we plan to do this summer. And we're waiting for the weather to clear so that they can finish the work on Snow's Brook Road. They'll get to it as quickly in April as they can.
And in 2024, Jennings Peak Road was gonna be reworked, working on that.
Road, Full rebuild.
Yeah, we're meeting tomorrow at 8:30 to discuss the Boulder Path. Again, they did talk about that. You mentioned those inlays. I'm looking at my notes with for the reflective markers and I'm hoping she's gonna have samples maybe tomorrow. Yeah, to be able to look at those, because that sounds kind of cool. And then the question is was thrown out there, are we discussing on-street parking on Boulder Path? So that's it.
Sounds good. Conservation Commission, oh, that's me. So my notes here, we're getting closer to getting approval from the Forest Service. Also waiting for the grant funding. And we actually got verbal approval from Forest Service, but still waiting for the grants.
On the remediation.
Right now, it's just verbal, yeah. Yep. So it's moving along, or
That's for the snows,
the mitigation with the, yeah,
Reduce silt into the pond.
into the pond, right? Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's it for conservation. Next, scheduled meeting will be April 11, is that correct? April,
Yes. That's what, yeah, that's our next meeting.
yeah,
I Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
yes, you may.
So as Tara said, we only have the HOP grant until June. It is March. We
Yeah,
have April and May. What do we need to tackle before we lose that grant?
Mark, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
And what?
What do you, I mean, the question is, what do you want?
Right, do we, right, but
Kayla,
do we understand the question?
Well, I think we try and per Alan's email, I mean, I would like to read it, but I think once we get into that we can utilize their expertise too, as far as if there's things that we want to start crafting to address those issues.
Yeah.
So I would think we could utilize them for that.
Then I'd like to revisit the setbacks and why that was important, because that was the biggest roadblock that we met. And
Yeah.
considering that everything passed, you have to think maybe that this would have passed.
Yeah,
Part of me is that there were a handful of people here who were against it and spoke about it, and we listened and we withdrew it. But in a town of 700 people, 10 people is a very small percentage that we appease. So,
10.
well, that's who people feel too. Right, and there are, if you do a quick search for real estate, 2 of those people who came here and spoke vehemently against it are selling their properties. So that's like, to Craig's point earlier, people buy property with knowing some people do, with knowing these zoning laws and how they can craft their land and their home, which we all want to, maximize what we can. But how can we make it easier for people who aren't millionaires to build here?
That was the point, I think, of that housing study.
Which we only have in June of this year, and we no longer have Kayla.
Well, in fairness, you do have money in the budget that for outside services, right? So, but you do want to maximize, you do want to get as much of their time as you possibly can in April and May, so that we can charge it off to the housing.
so we really should put this on the agenda. for next-
Yeah, maybe we could have Kayla here.
That's a good idea.
Because if we can get into it and have our questions ready and.
Yeah,
So yeah, that would be homework, right? We'll come
yeah,
with what you want for the housing grant with 2 months left.
Yeah.
so we'll get Kayla here next time.
Okay.
I'll email Tara.
Do you want me to reach out to Tara on
Yeah,
that?
Yeah.
you should, John.
I will do that.
And ask her and Kayla to be here. And really, I think the good starting point would be to address the questions that were raised, the reasons why you tabled it. So.
Yeah,
let's address those first before we lose the housing grant.
Sure. Okay. Anything else? Oh, Margaret,
I just wanted to bring something up, like, I had asked you about what was going on next to Golden Heights Road, where it looked like they had taken the rocks out and were creating a driveway to the road.
Yeah.
No,
No, they are not. It's an access way for construction vehicles,
okay,
and it will be put back
okay.
before they finish the project. The driveway for that property goes out onto Golden Heights Road and then comes in.
Mhm. Yeah, I saw that too, and hopefully we'll get our ski trail back next year
Sorry.
and more snow.
Hopefully they're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For lack of
And-
a better term, it might be good to do a post-mortem on the villas at Waterville because they're so maligned against.
Well, we have a couple of still ongoing things with their landscaping that we're actually dealing with today.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
may have to come back if the approved plan changes too much. We would bring that back to you.
Okay,
I mean, I'm not gonna bring it back for a couple of feet here or there, but
Yeah.
if there's a substantial change to what you approved, we'll bring it back for your information.
okay. Anything else? Wow. And you wanna make a motion,
Yeah, I'm stunned.
Great. Make a motion to.
Yeah.
call
Motion
meeting.
to, Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
oh, here,
Second.
second. Okay, everyone, okay,
Aye.
approved,
Yeah.
agreed.
We're gonna take.